Lion's Gate, right? And so coming through the Lion's Gate, we talking about 8-8. So we talking about the seated queen. 8-8 is seated queen. 80 is an open queen seat. 880 is an open empress seat. 888 is the empress seated. So when we looking at the events that's taking place and the timing of events that's occurring converging, we are at the close of the Aquarian of the Piscean age, the opening of the Aquarian age. We in the Jubilee year 2022, which cancels all contracts. Then also, this is the third year in what we call the redemption process of the organic people from the land to reclaim their birthrights and restore the land. Now, we've seen the Pope make a Canadian visit, and he had to be publicly put on notice to his face that his rule is over with because we operate from a higher standard of law, and no longer can the daughters of the land be compelled to operate under the foreign jurisdiction because the superior law has been activated, and she put him on notice that the matriarchs across the land has stationed the chiefs. They already put the chiefs on notice to cleanse the land. And what that means is that it is our job to reestablish government, which takes us to Noble Drew Ali immediately. Because one of the things that he say in the oral statements and prophecies, for those who don't understand Noble Drew Ali won't understand what he's talking about. But he said that he would leave these people in power long enough for us, the organic people of the land, to learn how to run government. So when he declared that we was Moorish nationals, there was an agenda attached to it, a legal maneuver to navigate a contract. Now, Ty's been telling us for years how to navigate this contract so we not victimized by it. And he's been reiterating the same thing. These people is a de facto corporate entity acting in a legal capacity as if they are the de jure or the rightful owners and lawmakers of the land. They are not. So who are these people? Where the hell did they come from? Right? And who do they represent? So when I trace back, another thing Noble Drew Ali said is, I need for you to get a good Moorish education. Moorish education is not restricted to Moorish science doctrine, nor the dogmas attached. The doctrine of Moorish science traces all the way back to Rome. And we understood that, and we've seen different things transpire over the course of time, but most of us don't watch what we call the long game, right? So we in a 6,000 year lunar cycle of the 4 cycles in the age, right? So it's a 24,000 year galactic clock. And it is the 2 lunar cycles, moon cycles, and there's 2 sun cycles, and they each separate one from the other. They alternate like fan blades. Now, the reference in understanding the time is Charles Mosley Bay's Clock of Destiny. Because if you don't understand the Clock of Destiny, then it doesn't make sense the alignments of the stellar arrangements, nor their effect on Earth. So then that takes us to the metaphysics of Moorish science, which takes us to C. Freeman Eel, who thoroughly broke down the Masonic secrets behind Moorish science in the Moorish science that was withheld in the Masonic secrets, right? So along comes Hakeem Bey to explain to us the tribal connection between the ones we call the righteous Moors, which will by default expose the ones that we call the dirty Moors. We call them dirty Moors because they pretend to be with us, but their allegiance is to some other entity not from Earth. In that allegiance, they have sworn war against us until the close of the age, what they call the end of time. The end of time is the close of the age. This is now. We going into the Aquarian age of knowing. That means that the secrets now have to be exposed to the public in a fashion that the public can assimilate who it is doing the dirt, where they at, and how to get rid of the motherfuckers. So they came in as Spanish conquistadors with Christopher Columbus, but they preceded him and they sent scout ships over here 100 years prior to Columbus. References they came before Columbus, edited by Ivan Van Sertima. So once they got over here, the elders who left the tradition in the South America specifically, said, we didn't see any ships. Now that's blatantly sticks out to me as an open secret, because we were a seafaring people who sent Algonquins to fight in the Iberian Peninsula against these same motherfuckers and aided them in ridding the land of these same rogue elements that was using adrenochrome, bloodletting rituals from Babylonian blood magic. They was using Babylonian money magic, and they were using Babylonian sex magic as the tools of conquest in order to subjugate a people. They turned the boys into effeminates, metrosexuals, in order to make them not resistant to the rule of a foreign entity, and they not as apt to protect the women if they are not divine masculine, right? So now in comes the Masonic Lodge under Prince Hall, the Blue Lodge on the fatherland. We understand what Prince Hall and Absalom Jones was doing when they were digging up the Masonic secrets as a apprentice under a under a York Rite Masonic Lodge, who wouldn't give him a charter. So he went to England and got a charter from the Scottish Rite in order to institute his knowledge of the York Rite over here. So he had to go to the other lodge, what they call the Great Grand Lodge in England, and get the charter, right? Well, that was not a charter from us. It wasn't until Malachi York went to Cairo, Egypt, to the original adepts to recover the Masonic charter from Cairo directly, which bypassed all European organizations that was infiltrated. In the process of doing this, he uncovered a sacred record that he called the sacred record of the United Nubian Nation of Moors. And in there, he goes into lectures in the ancient mystic order of Melchizedek, in the ancient Egyptian order, and in the Sufi order of the Green Light, as to explaining that these people came over here to usurp us, to undermine us and to replace us. They gave us the Bible because the Bible is their contract, but it's a spiritual contract and a conjure book and a grimoire, and it's also a riddle. So you have to decode the Bible in order to unlock the code of the Christ secret. So we talking 33 BC, 33 AD is the time frame. It's a 66-year time frame to find 122 degrees on Mount Calvary in order to get to the exact date in September in which the so-called crucifixion supposed to took place, as opposed to what we call Easter, which is the ceremonial worship of the mother as Ashtar or Ishtar, the great mother, who is the guardian of children, right? So then the rabbit being the patriarchal symbol of a virile male, right? So the rabbit was a man the whole time. And the rabbit had the gun, but he ain't know what to do with it, right? So he got sacked by the wolf. So the wolf caught the rabbit, took the gun, and then the hawk had to come recover the rabbit from the wolf. These are metaphors in the Masonic Lodge. The wolf is called She-Ra. She was the one who nursed Romulus and Remus, and these are the founding fathers of Rome. Whereas Remus, the one became Rome, was the warrior, And Romulus, who became the conscience or the intelligence, became the scholar, which tells us in this land that they came over and they used scholastics, right, and warfare in order to subjugate us, which takes us to the Gullah Wars that they call Seminole Wars. Now, you know who dictating what took place in the wars by what they call the war. So when we call them Gullah Wars, we know that all of the tribes from as far away as the Polynesian Islands, south, west, as far north as Alaska and the Eskimos, the Inuits, all sent soldiers, warriors to fight in Florida in what we call the Gullah Wars. This is how the French, right, under Adam Weishaupt using the Louisiana Purchase, and they were able to then do a survey on the land, what they call Lewis and Clark's expedition. As they surveyed the land, they found all our castles empty and said, there's no royalty here. This land is abandoned. But they don't know our culture like we do, because if my soldiers is going to war, I'm standing in the army with them. I'm not sending the motherfucker to fight in anything that I'm not willing to fight in myself. Right? So once these wars begin to take place, Lewis and Clark declared the land empty because they went as far west as Washington State. Right? And the translator we know as a blackamoor by the name of Ben Bay. Ben Bay is Benjamin Banneker.
Right.
Benjamin Banneker is credited with the design of Washington, D.C., which is massive sigils that's used for conjure purpose, and we call that the city of D.C. Right?
Right.
So once they established that, they moved our capital, because our capital was originally Philadelphia. Right? Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love, but it's also the Delphi oracles was central there. So they telling us that the oracles of Delphi was from Greece. That's because Greece was a Hellenistic culture under Helen as a woman. But Rome was a Hellenistic culture, but they turned Helen into a man. This is what they call beheading the god, or when they take Medusa's head. Right? So taking Medusa's head is them switching the gods out. That's an Anunnaki war tactic. So they use changing of the names. So when Enki named his son Seth, then Enlil named his son Sethian. Right? Just so he can say that they're different people, and he can try to switch places with them in retrospect. Right? So from there, we get into the 1900s, and we get into us trying to restore our people, and we got all of these other people that's fighting for power to never let us know who he is, and that's what they call the Masonic secret. So I'm gonna stop right there for questions.
Well, first of all, I know I started the live a little bit off center, but I appreciate everybody still keeping up with us, because I'm learning how to use StreamYard. However, I missed the introduction on the live, so I'm Sunny L, Sunny Moon L. Mother Tweety's here, and for the record, we're not coming in as the Adepts. And again, this is the Adepts chamber, so the people that come and join us and school us and make sure that we're on point are the Adepts, just to make that clear. But I do want to just make that public for the record, on the record. And other than that, yes, we're on with you. My thing was, as far as the conquistadors, we know who they were before. Who are the conquistadors now, and what do these organizations like? Is it the Greek letter organizations? Is it the Divine Nine? Like, who are these people? Are they the imposter Moors, the dirty Moors?
Okay,
or what?
Let me answer that. So, where are these people now? They look like us. They masquerade as our leadership in the community, but they always working against us. They've infiltrated every secret society, every alphabet organization. They stronghold paramilitary organization is known as the JDL, the Jewish Defense League, but everybody think that's a pale-skinned organization. Look at the symbols, right? When you look at the symbols, their symbol is the black fist. That doesn't make sense. Okay, they are working as the paramilitary branch. They're the same ones you'll find in all of the celebrities' FBI files issuing death threats and extortion plots in order to take the wealth from our celebrities. So you find them in Tupac file, Biggie file, you find them in Michael Jackson file, you find them in Prince file, you find them in some of the non-melanated celebrities like what's my man name? Robin Williams, who they said committed suicide, but that was a flat out murder. They call them star whackers in Hollywood. This is in the protection from them in Hollywood before the Nation of Islam got out there was a group that we call Scientologists. The Scientologists was diffusing the situation because they couldn't get to the wealth of the actors because of the structure of Scientology. So that's why all of the celebrities start running the L. Ron Hubbard Scientology, right? So when we started to become instrumental in movies and music in the Hollywood, then the Nation of Islam's FOI have to come in because they're the only ones who know how to defend us from this enemy. They were trained. The what?
Haven't they joined Scientology as well?
Well, that's a military strategy. Okay. So you got the people that's protecting the Europeans in Hollywood, Scientologists, bump into these dudes that's protecting us in Hollywood called FOI. They both performing the same function for two different groups against the same enemy. The art of war say the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So it's only natural that they have to end up creating some kind of alliance because they still fighting the dirty Moors. That's why L. Ron Hubbard moved onto a boat so he wouldn't be under their jurisdiction on the land, because they flipped the land jurisdiction to the water. They don't have any jurisdiction on the land. They flipped the water jurisdiction on the land. That's called Admiralty law. The Admiralty and Maritime law is codified and controlled by the Uniform Commercial Code. The Uniform Commercial Code is what they call the International Law of Nations. The International Law of Nations governs international corporate jurisdictional law. So when you become a national, you become a straw man in your nation. As a straw man, you are a dead entity, a legal fiction. You don't really exist. So therefore, whatever they do to you is only a fiction and they can't suffer a consequence. It's not true. They doing this to you because you allowing them to do it to you because you don't know what they doing. That's an adhesion contract that they have you under that you don't know you signing. When they say nationality is the order of the day, it expired July the 4th, 2019. Because using the nationality system under Noble Drew Ali's original format, you was able to navigate and live your life without ever being affected by these people being on the land. But when we start fighting to be part of their system, we abandon our system. We abandon Elijah Muhammad. We abandon Noble Drew Ali. We abandon Marcus Garvey. We abandon Booker T. Washington. We abandon W.E.B. Du Bois. How are we going to get out of this condition? Right? So what we end up doing was all of the chiefs just put their part in the public domain until one of us can figure out how to put all of the pieces of the puzzle together so that we can exile the impostors. In New Jersey, they are known as the Moorish Zionist Jews. And they are called blackamoors by the Moorish title. They look like us, but they not us. If you look up the picture of Noble Drew Ali in Chicago in front of the temple, then you look up the picture of them in front of a temple, they are mimicking, but they're giving signs in the pictures. But nobody knows how to read the signs because everybody is caught in the dogma that they can't get to the science part. This is why C. Freeman Eels information is critical to the understanding of more science, because he teach you how to read the symbols. And you go back to the Q drop and it said, what's going to be their undoing? The symbols. The symbols is going to expose them, right? Which takes us to the flag. Well, the flag that they flying in the Moorish Science Temple today with the 5-point star has been a Moorish Science Temple flag longer than it's been a Moroccan state flag. Make that shit make sense. They copying Moorish science and Noble Drew Ali in order to perpetuate their dogmatic pursuits and oppression. We not buying it, we done with it, and it don't work no more. So the women's consulate of Moors have been keeping the secret among themselves as to how Noble Drew Ali got infiltrated, because don't nobody want to tell the story about the muftis. The muftis that gave him up to Rome, as they call it. Of course they did. They was fucking Romans. They was Etruscan Moors. Before they was called Moors, when they went into Europe after they got kicked out of Africa, they was called Etruscans. When they invaded from in the Iberian Peninsula of Europe, when they came in from the southeast, they came in as the Byzantine kings of the Ottoman Empire. This is where we get the term Els, Bays, and Days in the Moorish Science Temple, because you tagging the motherfuckers doing the dirt. Right? So now we get to George Washington and the 200-year challenge in order to develop a ceasefire. The ceasefire was a settlement that was written up as the Paris Accord. We know it today as the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. It wasn't even signed on this land, so therefore any enforcement on this land is in a direct contradiction to the law of the land, which goes back to the native woman who put the Pope on notice, and she had to tell him that the chiefs are now active on the land and that these motherfuckers is running out of time, they got to go, right? And all of the time they've been telling us that white supremacy was about your skin color. It was about being a free white person in law. When you look it up in Black Law Dictionary under free white person in law, clear as day it say Moors. Clear as day. So the whole thing was a chess game between adepts. The ones who were here were on defense, so they take up the banner or the moniker of black.
Question. So what do you think of us, because we call ourselves American Indians?
Indian is not our term. It's the same as the Moor. They thrusting names on us, like I explained to the sister about Seminole. When we say they talking about Seminole Wars, they telling it from the Europeans' perspective, from the conquistadors, the French and the English that we fought. But when you say Gullah Wars, you telling it from our people's history, perspective, and angle, and we don't tell the same story exactly the same. Their story is that we was runaway slaves and we congregated with the natives and made the strong fighting force in Florida. Our position in the Gullah Wars is we ain't slaves, we ain't finna be your slave, and we'll fight your motherfucking ass until the end of the earth. So this is the difference in how the stories is being told between our elders and the people that came. The people that came want to hold on to the narrative and make us assume the position as a national free white person in law, because that's the big I concept of the Etruscan doctrine.
Okay.
We don't believe in that.
So, well, we go by nations. So, does it still say we're not who we are when we say that we Blackfoot, we're Saponi, Calabar, Choctaw?
When you use those tribal designations like that, Choctaw, the Dunda Mounja, Washita, Cherokee. Cherokee is also a term that they thrust upon us. Right? It's not the original name. The name Cherokee was specifically created to produce some people that we call reservation invaders, $5 Indians. This is who they was making their contracts with under the pretense that they was making the contracts with us. But when you go to all our elders, they say we never signed treaties with them people. Our people never signed treaties with them. So who in the fuck is this signing the treaties? It's the servants they brought because they fought wars against the Mongols and the Huns. Look at the people when it testify of itself. They fought wars with the Mongols, the Huns, and what we call as the Aryans or Ayurvedic peoples, what we call Hindus. These people became the servants of the Moors in Europe. As prisoners of war, they became part of the bounty that they won. And these were their servants, or as they call them, they pets. And Mama said that nobody should be thrown away like trash. You can't make other human beings your pets. I agree. So when they was telling us the slave stories, what they was leaving out parts is that the big house is Big Mama house. Big Mama always had a big house because she always had a lot of her grandkids, great grandkids, nieces and nephews all living at the house. When they turned our family dwellings into POW camps, they rebranded them as plantations. They stopped calling us so-called Indians and started calling us Negroes, blacks, and colors. But none of those things was actually us. None of this shit in English would have had anything to do with us if we'd have held on to our original languages. But what do? They started murdering us for teaching our children the original tongues. But when you go back off in New Orleans, up in the woods, they still have tribes that speak the original language. Same with Mississippi, backwoods Mississippi. You'll be talking to somebody and they just sound like a good old country boy. Then another country boy get up and it'll sound like they talking Japanese.
You're absolutely right, because I'm from Louisiana.
And I'm like, what the hell is these niggas talking about? I ain't never heard this shit before. They talk in the native tongue that predates the settlers. So our original tradition is the only way to get these people out of here, and that's an oral tradition. When they tell you to fill the paperwork, the paper is the paper chain. The paper chain ties you to a straw man status as a national. We in order for us to not need nationality, we have to rise above nations. Nations are corporate entities created to farm humans. I can't say it no other way. It's a slave system.
And those who clans, they were called clans. They were like, we were clans.
Yeah. So the Europeans' word, first of all, European language was originally a Twa language from the Twa peoples that came as the Orisha that be rebranded as Irish. And the Irish or the Orisha formed two distinct clans. One of them was called Scots, named after Scotta, and the other one was called Irish, named after Orisha, right? The Twa people that settled in the islands. The ones that we call Moor stronghold is in Switzerland globally. That's why Switzerland is immune to the wars. They infiltrated Switzerland when the last Swiss war, when they fought the French. So all they was doing was staging a war so they could do a mass evacuation and set up a banking system for control in Switzerland.
What about Absalom Jones? I heard you mention him. Was he a dirty?
No. Absalom Jones and Prince Hall was the first of the chiefs on the land that discovered what was being done was they was using our rites of passage against us and weaponized it in the lodges by blocking us out of the institution so we can never develop mentally and psychologically and spiritually enough to know who we are. It was basically the denying us of the knowledge itself. And they was the first, well, two of the first ones on record that actually tried to bring the secrets out of the lodges. And they responsible for these college fraternities as the byproduct of Prince Hall Masons hijacking the system of academia that they was teaching our children against us. So they used the fraternities and the sororities in order to get our people out of that that cyclic system of oppression and make them be more independent thinkers. Those organizations is for a reason, and they are extensions of our rites of passage that was stolen and hijacked.
So who's running the world then?
Well, right now the world is what you call in the balance, and that's because there's a power shift in real time taking place. We screaming free Larry Hoover, free Angel Bay, free Malachi York. We screaming free Mumia, and all of these people. This is my council of elders that I selected that I'm speaking on, and they are in a place called Raven Rock, Colorado, in the Cheyenne Mountains. And while they're there under the FEMA continuity of government, they are changing the power structure of America, and America is going to be the lead power structure of the planet in a unified global community. Because everybody got invaded by the same motherfuckers trying to do the same shit to their kids. And we tired of it.
Yes, we are. We definitely are.
That being said, I have one question to bring us back. When you were talking about CMA, CMA said as well, we're all the lost tribe of Israel over here in the so-called melting pot. And I wanted to know, based on that, as far as that goes, what's your philosophy on all of us being the lost tribe of Israel, the amalgamists, hybrids?
Anybody standing in the Moorish science temple anywhere would call themselves an Israelite for one reason, because they are the ones who are infiltrators are from that clan, and those was the ones we was fighting the war with. We are Adamites, Edomites, earthborn. We called ourselves the earthborn, right? Children of the stars. They call themselves the Skywalkers who came to claim Earth. They not from here. They from a planet ship called Nibiru, a brown dwarf star that's part of this binary star system that we in. But because the second sun in our star system, Nibiru, only comes around every 3,600 years, right? So it's going to take that long for us to hold in the memory of the Earth in order to know they coming back. It's a famous song that we all know from the Lion King, the Alafia song. That's the song to the elders that lived on Nibiru. When they came back, every time they came back and the greeting came, it was a whole group of women from every culture around the world that would meet the ship that landed, and they would sing the Alafia song in different languages. It's the same song. It's in Japan, it's in China, and all in the original tongues, but it's slightly different because of the culture. But it's a welcoming of the ancestors. That's all it is. We know who they is, and they know who we is. They know from looking at us which ones belong on Earth and which one of these motherfuckers can't stay. The ones that... Go ahead, sweetie. What you say?
I got several people in the chat want to know.
Okay.
Okay, the first one that said, these people won't leave and go back to their own home.
They not from nowhere on Earth. If you go back to Elijah Muhammad, he said they're not native to anywhere on the planet. Everywhere they go, they start mischief and bloodshed. They turn one brother against the other brother, and then they offer him a solution for a fee. And when they realize what's going on, it'd be too late because they'd have moved on to the next group of righteous people to do the same thing again. And it's the same pattern that's been repeating for the last 6,000 years. And then when you look in the doctrine of the church and Islam and in the Abrahamic doctrine and in the Nation of Islam doctrine, they all say that the devil had 6,000 years to rule and their time is up. Noble Ali said these people's stay here was up, but he can't take them out of power till we can run government. So when Taj telling us civics, he's telling us everything that we need to know while we under the contract until one of us figure out how to destroy the contract that we need to know to navigate it. Navigating the contract is minimizing the trauma of being in a subjugated system. The system is never designed for anybody to flourish but the ones that was in the secret places hiding behind the rocks that they threw over somebody else's shoulder because they was too motherfucking cowardly to take responsibility for their own actions.
So you said that what's his name? Was he set up the
Malachi York?
Yes, set up.
Yeah, because I heard you mention him earlier. He was absolutely set up. And I just got a message, I think it was either today or yesterday, where the ones who had set him up has been the government who used them is now turning on them, arresting them for somebody got to take the fall and the government ain't taking it, so they telling on the niggas that lied.
Wow. You know, I had visited his I called it a kingdom. It was beautiful. And I was like, it just seemed like everybody was happy. Everybody, the children was happy. Everybody, they had their own way of making money. They were building. It was like a pyramid. And I was like, wow. In Edenton, Georgia, it was beautiful.
That's called Tamaray, Egypt of the West.
Yes, and about 3-4 years later, this happened. So I was like, wow, this is like,
right.
Just
so the reason they arrested Malachi, because they didn't want to arrest Jeffrey Epstein.
So they needed a fall guy.
Yeah, so what they do, so we talked about Babylonian money magic, Babylonian sex magic, and Babylonian blood magic. But we didn't talk about the part of the sacrifice of the righteous. So you have to find somebody the same amount of clean as you is dirty, and then accuse them of the shit you doing. And that's how you sacrifice somebody. So the system, the government, instead of going to get Jeffrey Epstein, they sacrificed Malachi York in his place. The same thing with Harvey Weinstein, they sacrificed Bill Cosby in his place.
I kind of figured all these, just like, a lot of people, R. Kelly. I think R. Kelly was set up.
R. Kelly is retarded. I just got the receipt, and I posted it on my Instagram page because I've been telling these people, the doctors came back to say his IQ is the level of a second grader.
Oh, damn. But he's a musical genius.
Right. That's called an idiot savant. I've been pointing out the fact that R. Kelly, every one of these girls just about that claim he did something to him, met him, he was in the studio. My grievance was, if R. Kelly is guilty, why y'all not arresting these people that's bringing these little kids to the studio? Them the motherfuckers that's the dirty ones because he retarded.
Yes, because he's really what you consider to be artistic.
Autistic, yeah.
Yeah, he can comprehend music notes, he can write them,
yeah,
and all that. But anything else outside that box that he's in, he can't comprehend.
Right, because he got the mind of a second grader.
Yeah.
So
I work with mentally challenged, so I already know what artistic, because I have friends with children like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I find it strange that the parents would just leave their teen daughters.
Well, if you listen to the stories that some of them telling, some of their mothers was involved in the in a threesome relationship with R. Kelly with their daughter. So my grievance again is the same. If you're gonna, I'm not saying don't punish R. Kelly. I'm saying don't let the motherfuckers that was in their sound right mind doing this dirt get away with it, and then punish R. Kelly for being retarded.
Exactly. They all should be punished, just like with the Bill Cosby situation. We all know that there was a plan, there was a whole setup. They for some reason love to set up us because they want you to look at us as the people that's evil.
No, that's not what's going on. That's not what's going on. What's going on is exactly this. It's not that they're trying to make us look bad. Everybody that can take them out of power, they have to remove them first.
Okay.
Now, R. Kelly had somebody around him, and this is why they turned on him. Somebody around R. Kelly had enough sense to tie his money up where they can't drain his bank account because he couldn't function. So somebody secured his money and they can't get it. So they're trying to disgrace him and some kind of way make him commit suicide or something, but he's not suicidal. But they want to get to his money that they can't get to because the trust is set up properly where he can only get a certain amount of money annually from his trust until he get to a certain age.
So he don't have it set up where his children will benefit from it?
His children will get what you call allowances.
Yeah, force, yep.
Yeah, so they doing it's the same way with Social Security. If you on Social Security, your children get a Social Security check. Mm-hmm. His trust, when his trust pay his bills, they send his children checks.
Okay.
Now the women gonna probably, if they ain't proved that them his kids, and they gonna probably say they're not getting no money because it got to be irrefutable proof. A DNA test, he got to sign the birth certificate. You know, different shit got to be in place before they can give that child a check. The same way they make you fill out forms to get Social Security form, it's the same way they got to jump through hoops to get that trust money because it can only be given out under certain circumstances and they limit to what they can access.
So, but ain't some of these people killing their own relatives and stuff for the like a blood oath?
That's not as common as people want you to believe it is. But what they do is trade like for instance, if I'm a singer, this happened to a popular guy that's right now in the conscious community that's going through a legal crisis, where an individual was seeking a musical contract, and this individual was seeking a music contract. So the girl that's the go-between told the one who was seeking the contract that she needed to sacrifice another artist. So she gave him up because he was her ex and accused him of some shit that you don't need no evidence. Because the accusation is enough evidence to get your ass sent to prison for life just because you was accused of it.
And conspiracy.
So they do make those trade-offs, you know. But yeah, all of these things is part of their concerted effort to keep us from ever reclaiming the land. But they all on notice now. Right now, we at the part where the sisters got to start coming together because y'all got some sisters that ain't y'all. You know them when you smell them because you're going to smell them before you see them. They got no reverence for the womb. They womb smell like a sewer drain. They don't care nothing about, they always got something bad to say about a man. Can't stand to see a woman in a functional relationship because then she got to find a way to break that shit up.
Yeah.
Y'all got to find them and weed them sluts out. They don't belong with y'all. They not part of our clans and families.
And they turbaned and fezzed up. They turbaned and fezzed up too. By the way, telling me that I ain't.
You was so
say
funny,
that, right? Say that, sweetie. Say that.
Yeah.
Hey, but I essentially was gonna say, do you think that and not to sound like I'm gonna just say, do you essentially think is the mother sort of quote unquote waging war against the mothers? And I want to, like, when you was just talking about the R. Kelly thing, like, these women didn't go there on their own, like they mother, or essentially they mother, because I watched like the R. Kelly documentary, and these mothers was bringing their daughters. And I've also seen several different clips where a man actually was talking about how women used to bring their daughters to him to be groomed, like you said, where they want these men to quote unquote, well, essentially, have sex with their daughters, and it's all kind of weird shit. Excuse my language, but
It is what it is. It's some weirdo shit.
Yeah.
It's some weirdo shit. So look, with the R. Kelly situation, all you got to do is listen to the story about Aaliyah. Aaliyah's mother took her to R. Kelly and had a threesome with R. Kelly with Aaliyah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's why I say these mothers, and I'm gonna just put it on the record, like, a lot of these women is not taking full responsibility and accountability for what the fuck is going on around here. They letting these people snatch our babies up and touch them in the background while they protect some of these men that's essentially doing it.
The saddest part of it is the good women want to protect the good men by not telling them what the bad men is doing to the kids. I've been hearing it since I was little. Don't let her daddy find out, because he's going to end up in prison. Fuck that. Tell me, let me splatter this motherfucker brains, and we'll figure the rest out in court.
That's out later. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Some of the people want to know, my apologies for interrupting. They want to know, what do we do collectively to get back on where we need to be? So we know that it's going to take, no nation can rise, or nation loosely can rise higher than its women. And now that we've made it clear that the women are warring against the women, including the mothers in the home, which is what I was telling people in private, y'all know my situation, and the war that's going on within my own personal, relationship with my mother. It goes all the way to the
that's from us amalgamating with them dirty motherfuckers.
Right.
That's what that's from. So they would marry into the royal families of this land, so they'll have a dog in every fight. They got to have a child in every family.
Wow.
They were switching babies in the hospital, putting they no good, rotten ass motherfucking kids in the righteous family. They know he ain't gonna never turn out to do good, be good, or nothing good in him. But they think that your goodness is gonna keep him in line, and he can't do it because it's not his nature.
Wow.
Your nurture can't override his nature because he's too dirty in the heart. Right now, it's not really the difference. The women that's trying to protect the children first before they even care about themselves, them your sisters. Make alliances with them, meet them at wherever you meet them at. Children is in the matriarchy is about raising the children and securing the children first. All of these men is under the impression that matriarchy is about putting women in a patriarchal position. That's not what it is. That's feminism.
That's not our fight.
The record straight.
Well, with that being that being said, yeah, go ahead, brother. Yeah.
So in where the women at in the Moorish arena, y'all have what's called the Women's Moorish Consulate. The sisters know what's up, and they not gonna openly say it, but they know what's up. The MGT know what's up. They not gonna openly say it until you see three kings walking the land. None of the women are gonna expose themselves before the kings or the chiefs is out front, because we have to run the interference. We have to put the roadblock up between the enemy and the women and the children. So we surround the children with women, and then the men surround the women. That's the structure. Surround the children with the women, and then the men surround the women. So when we see y'all making the moves, we already know what to do. The divine masculine gonna step in, and it's gonna make some of these fruit booty ass dudes straighten up. Some of them ain't no help for. That's just how it is. Some of them too far gone. They use those sex magic to destroy the heirs. The ones they rape is not worthy to rule. That's why they do that shit. That's why they sending them to prison at 12 years old with life sentences. It's called a shattered oracle. It's a ruptured root chakra. He's never fit to rule. They know what they doing.
So
All they dirty.
like
Go ahead.
Apologies, but is that like what they do when they're bug breaking, quote unquote?
Yeah, that's what all of that. But bug breaking and all of that was about making them unfit to rule, which means they can't overthrow the rule of the enemy.
So is that why there's so many of our young men that's in prison?
Yeah. We didn't have prisons before they came. That's not even hard to look up.
We didn't.
Prisons is not even 150 years old over here. What was we doing before that?
Living like gods.
Right. So our system was entirely different. We didn't need police. We didn't need that shit because we wasn't trying to protect the rich from the poor. We was trying to chase the po down so we could get that motherfucker some cornbread.
So, Divine, do you call yourself a Moor?
No, I am not a Moor.
Neither am
I am not a Moor. I just study more science. But remember, I say this all the time, and I'm not anti-Moor, I'm anti-dirty Moor. It's a difference in the two.
I'm not anti-anybody.
I'm anti-dirty Moor because them the motherfuckers that make the righteous Moors who've been fighting with them motherfuckers internally for ever since Noble Drew Ali got motherfucking assassinated. They've been internally fighting with the dirty Moors. They got a record of them. And they're gonna have to answer to Chief Malik Angel Bay. That's it. They don't have to answer to me. That's not my jurisdiction. But I can tell them who they gonna have to answer to.
You know, I've been since I've been over here on YouTube, I always say I don't have nothing against the Moors. And right. They know who they are. I know who I am. I'm not out here trying to hunt them down and go back and forth with them. It's a respect thing.
That's right.
I have learned a lot from them that a lot of our people don't know. I have learned, things from them. So it's a respect thing. And that's where we are lost at because people do not have respect anymore. All that's out the door.
Yeah, so a lot of that, because our culture over here, the most loved and most respected is how you gain status in our community. You not finna just keep doing dirt and be the most loved, most respected motherfucker. It's not gonna happen.
That whole board.
Right. So when we talk about like my interaction with some of the Moors, it started off rocky because they feel like I'm attacking them. But when they really listen to what I'm saying, I'm really telling them what Noble Drew Ali wanted them to know. The only reason why I could say that is because it's in the oral statements and prophecies. He clearly wrote in that motherfucker, your own brother will put you in slavery.
Put you right back in slavery, wearing feathers and turbans, and that's for damn sure because I've experienced it myself.
So
I wanted to make some.
It's all through it, like all through
it. Right,
and
I wanted to make it clear too, and maybe you could expound on this part of it. But more is the equivalent of it's a body politic, first of all. So it's not the person's ethnicity. It's not something that you associate with based on how you look or where you're from. That's not what that is. It's to me, the equivalent of the de factos, and correct me if I'm incorrect, please do. It's the equivalent of what you would think of the Democrats, Republicans. It's a political party. It's a jurisdiction. And if you agree to that jurisdiction, then you have these particular set of organized rules and so on and so forth. And you have the protection of said trust, which is the difference between being in the public trust in your straw man and being within the private. Let's say, for instance, if you were with the mosque or the NOI, you know what I mean? You would have the protection of those groups of people. So if you could expound on that, and then the difference between the OOR and the UUR, please.
Well, the UUR was Amaru. It was AMUURU. The Amaru is the tribal designation that they're trying to say is the same as a MOOR, Moor. They're not the same, right? When you look at the Moors, they try to get anything with an M and an R in it out of history and say, see, we was ancient Moors here. And the word be something like Mirafaka. That's not Moor. You know, like for instance, a good one is the Kemetic term mir. The Kemetic, they say this is the Moors, the mir. Well, you motherfuckers is some spaceships. Because that's what a flying apparatus is, a mir in Kemetic. It's the same thing in Hebrew. A mir is a ship, a plane, a flying apparatus. That's not the same thing. Then they try to use that as the dogmatic influence. Remember, Albert Pike issued The Righteous the challenge between morals and dogma. Was you going to pursue the moral path or the dogmatic pursuit? Let's go back to a little history lesson. Let's go back to when the Moorish Temple of Science, a civics organization, was formed. When the Moorish civics organization was formed, it was formed to give us a tribe in the public domain in a system that they had no jurisdiction over. But somebody inside of the lodges signed some kind of a contract that made you become a U.S. national Moor. If you look on the back of your nationality card, it's going to say that this Moor is a U.S. national. That's a contradictory idea in and of itself, in that the U.S. is a foreign corporation masquerading as a de jure agency of government, right? So who is these people? They come in the legal fashion, a barristers. Barrister, if you look it up, is a title of nobility. And in the barristers union, you have honorables and esquires in rank. Esquires are the ones who are practicing the arguments on the floor. The honorables is the ones who sit and referee the argument between the two opposing sides in order for the barristers to get done administering the estate. The estate is governed by the lords. The lords are the landlords, right? Lords is a title of nobility. These are what we call real estate tycoons, those who own massive amounts of real estate, but they don't have a domicile. They don't have a direct home. They do that because they don't have the same arrangements in law when they are owners of the land, as opposed to what we call domiciles on the land. So we talking about somebody that's walking around as a ghost versus somebody walking around in flesh and blood. We talking the difference in a Dred Scott 3/5 compromised Negro that got no rights that a white man, which is a free white person in law, which is a Moor, is bound to respect. The whole purpose of doing the paperwork is to activate the status as free white person in law that makes you above the jurisdiction of the authorized bar associations of King George III. King George III issued the first charter for barristers to come and administer the estates of the landlords in what they call commerce and enterprise in the New World. That's what they agreement was, or they commission was from King George. So they became the ones who argue contract. When they issue a warrant is an ongoing declaration of war. The U.S. Supreme Court already ruled that the people that look like us are not part of their system, and they are ongoing enemy combatants. This has been in the law since the law been over here from their system. They never overturned any of that. Dred Scott haven't been overturned. They still see us as 3/5 compromised Negroes. When we become 5/5 realized, then we understand that the key to America is on the face of the dollar bill, and the contractors is there on the face of the dollar bill, right? The United States Treasury and the Treasurer of the United States. Who in the fuck is these motherfuckers, and where is they at? And how is they making contracts and don't nobody know that they made a contract?
Exactly.
Right? So under the Fair Debt Collection Act nullifies, voids out all of the contracts for what we call non-disclosure in law. The non-disclosure is they never told you that they were an interim government that was operating to reestablish the original governments of the land. Instead, they went rogue and decided to establish their own government on our land under the pretense that we will never figure out who we are. We will always think that we Moors, and we'll never know that we was at odds with the Moors in order to establish this land over here as the original de jure occupants of the land. When you get to the history, it tells you clearly that the Moors used to auction off the POWs. And you can find that in a book called Moors and Freemasonry, where it's talking about the auctions and the different prices is the status of the ones being auctioned. All of that's in there, but they thinking that it means something else. That's that's the slave block. Them motherfuckers, they was POWs, they was ransoming off, was us. They was selling us between themselves to do their bidding for them and to have children so they can kill us off and raise our kids and never know who they were. So now we don't know who he is. Our knowledge is took, a state of darkness, triple darkness, eternal death. And the only way to come back from it is to come back to life. Kill your straw man, your doppelganger, your imposter. Once you kill your imposter by asserting your 5/5 status in the public domain by public notice with no paperwork attached, because that's the trick. The barristers have it set up where anything that you file, driver's license, birth certificates, all of these adhesion contracts is designed, nationality cards. When you start signing this paperwork with these people, we already been infiltrated. So they designed to take you right back to the system. So the good question just came up. What about the American rights of the indigenous people? That's the I fucked you good note on the prostitute's dresser when the John is leaving.
Damn.
That's the I told you that all your shit belonged to me, but now I'm telling you I was just lying and I fucked you good. That's all it's saying. They just telling us what we already know, but they had to tell it to us because they're not going to believe it coming from one of us.
And that's the problem. Don't nobody believe nothing we say. If the Caucasian ain't said it, then it's not true. That's what's.
And this is the reason why that's exists. Because the dirty Moors, blacker Moors and tawny Moors, use pale faces to block institutions to keep us from discovering what they doing.
Exactly.
And this is what was keeping us from developing to 5/5 realization status, is because they hijacked the lodges. They came in hostile, according to Noble Drew Ali, 32-degree Scottish Rite, Red Lodge. That's the motherland. They infiltrated the motherland first. That means they sent some stinking rotten coochie bitches up into the families' harems and fucked up the families. She came in acting like she believed in the sisterhood, and then she found the head sister and bust her in the head. And then as soon as the chief said something about it, she poisoned it with hemlock.
So now I'm hearing, you know, like I said, I'm around everywhere, but if people don't see me, I'm just there. Now we got this thing, okay, we're on the track of who we are if they do the genealogy, but then you have people saying that we actually mixed with some Europeans is where a lot of our last names coming from, and they are the European royalty bloodline. I guess to say that's why royalty is in America. But if you look over in Europe, ain't shit there. So where did they get their royalty from?
And their name's not Smith and Jones. Ours is.
Exactly.
Ours was the name. They had the name. They giving people the what you call it? Like when you trace your name back to a what's that emblem? You have the
family crest.
Yeah, the family crest. Now.
Okay, so look, these names conceal tribal identities. Jones is, now remember, the J 500 years old. We've been here longer than that. Jones is Ionis. Ionis means fish. So the Jones clans was the clans who used to fish the rivers and the lakes on the land. The Johnsons, remember there was no J. It's Yanan. Yanan is the light bringer. So the children of the ones who was the light bringers, which was priests in the community, was called Johnsons. So it's just so many things that they tricked us with, that unveiling all of the tricks in one day will probably make a motherfucker drop dead at the end.
So what about, okay, one of my surnames is Walker.
Right. The Walkers is the Skywalkers. That's Big Tukey clan. The Skywalkers used to live in villages and treetops, so they burnt all the trees down. They was fearless. They was the ones, when you watch the Great Wall, you see the women in the blue fighting those dragon bitches. Those were Skywalkers. Right. When you pull up treetop villages, you still got different tribes around the world that still got treetop villages. We had them. You used to be able to leave New Orleans in the treetops and don't even come down from the trees until you got to Florida.
And you were absolutely right, because the first thing they did on Claiborne Avenue was cut down all the trees.
That goes back to the story that these clowns is teaching, the Africa story that I was listening to. That niggas was Homo sapiens that lived up in the trees. Then one day, one of the Homo sapiens came down out the tree and started living on the land.
Look, we lived on the land. We got tribes that dive under the water. That's where your mermaid myth came from.
Yes.
If you pull them up, it's a tribe in South Africa that's known for diving in the ocean. That's a mermaid clan, right? And they take the word mer and say that mean more too. I would be shaking my goddamn head, right? But everything with an M and an R in it is under the dogma. Remember, it's the difference between the morals and the dogma. Under the dogma, anything with an M and an R in it is a moor. If it's in the history books to prove they lie, that we've been called Moors, you can't find nowhere over here we was Moors before 1492.
I cannot
find nothing. And anybody that want to produce it, go ahead, produce it, because you're gonna be to make that shit up.
Well, speaking on that, there's this meme that keeps going around. Oh, my apologies, Mother.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Real quick, thank you. There's this meme that keeps going around that's saying that the word Moorish was a substitute for the word Indian around 1600s. I can't quote it exactly.
That's correct. Now remember. When Columbus came, they said they was going to India, right? This shit don't make no sense, but I'm gonna tell the story how they tell it. So he was finna find an alternative trade route to India by going east. Ain't that the story they tell us in school? All right, and once he got here, he mistaken the people on the land with the people from India. That's what they told us, ain't it? And at that time, the people of India was primarily something called a Dravidian. So if you pull up a picture of a Dravidian, then you'll see who he thought he was bumping into. But neither here nor there. The problem with that storyline that they was telling us in school is India was Hindustan into the 1900s. So where in the fuck does he think he going? Right? So when they was coming over here, they knew where they was going because his navigator, Pietro del Negro, was a blackamoor, and he was running the show. The navigator ran the ship, not the captain. Because the captain can't get nowhere if the navigator don't tell him where to go. So the navigator is a blackamoor, Etruscan, named Pietro del Negro. This is all in the history books. You can look this shit up. It's easy to find since I don't never have no receipts for the shit I'll be saying. But this shit is too easy to find for me to be making it up. So when you find out in the logs that he ran into the most loving, kind, and peaceful people we ever seen in his life, they'll make a perfect motherfucker to goddamn motherfucking sack. So Christopher Colombo is the investigator who's traveling with the navigator. Now remember, he went to Isabella and Ferdinand to get finances for the trip, right? Secret relations between blacks and Jews say it wasn't the Jews, Jewels, of Ferdinand and Isabella that paid for Columbus's trip. It was her Jews. If you pull up the Jewish brooch, the blackamoor Jewish brooch, they all wear them in allegiance to the royal family that they aligned with. They wear the brooch. It's a nigger face, a blackamoor, big lip, soup cooler, nappy head motherfucker. That's a piece of jewelry in Europe. So when you listen to Dr. John Henry Clark, he said they didn't call them Jews because they was from Judah. They called them Jews because of the jewelry. These motherfuckers' faces was on the jewelry. And so he gets backed up by Dr. Ben. Dr. Ben say us the black Jews, and he goes into the historical record of the people that's called Etruscans and the difference in the other peoples. It's right in the book. You know, most people are not going to read it, but Dr. Ben put it out there for a reason, and there's some good information in there. My Pan-African studies didn't fail to teach me that I'm from over here. I'm not from no goddamn Africa. I didn't come on no slave ship. I was already here. I've been so long. I've been here so long. Here wasn't even here when I got here. And so since we've been here so long, I'm gonna remember who the fuck I am, because that's my job. Because Mama said, if you don't know who the fuck you is, you ain't gonna never know who nobody is. What the fuck she mean by that? And then I read in the philosophers, they say in the pyramids, it's written, man, know thyself. But I don't mean I ain't got to know another motherfucker. I just know who I am.
And that's right. That's what's most important, as long as you know who you are.
And the rest of it gonna tell itself, because those who not from the same heart link as me and my families, they will not stand up to the scrutiny. They're gonna kick, scream. Then this is the craziest part. No matter how much you bust their ass in the head with the facts, they're gonna send the lowest level of student, the least qualified to challenge what you're saying, to challenge you. And they're gonna have a whole fucking tantrum. Like they really saying something, but the whole time them motherfuckers ain't saying shit. We them feather-wearing motherfuckers that run around the goddamn campfire on that fire water talking about, ooh, them us.
Now, with that being said, what's the rhetoric behind the $5 Indian? And do the chiefs that, like, let's say for instance, Powhatan and Pocahontas, right? There's a lot of like
Yeah,
misconception and
she was
or just myth. Yeah.
Pocahontas was a human traffic rape victim. That's
Wow.
what she was. She was being held hostage by a captor. She was the queen of the land that they had subjugated, and the rest of the queens knew who she was, and she gave them a heads up all the way across the land on the journey. See, they don't tell y'all that because they don't want you to know that we ain't never laid down to these motherfuckers. We just readjusted to re-strategize. And they told me, Rod, you gonna be the one figure this shit out. And I'm like, not me. I'm not the smartest motherfucker in the goddamn drawer. She said, you don't gotta be the sharpest knife in the drawer. You just gotta be sharp enough to cut something. So I've just been running around cutting the fuck out they shit everywhere I see it. This a lie, but cut this motherfucker too with the truth. So
And the
Clean
truth
slice.
cuts more than anything.
yeah, worst thing you can tell a motherfucker is the truth. Look, you can lie on a nigga and he'll laugh at you. You tell the truth on him, he'll shoot you in your face.
Yep. And that's a fact. That's a fact. These Negroes so lost out here, they'll argue with you and argue with you, don't know nothing about their damn bloodline. They'll argue with you about being out of Africa. They'll argue with you about Egypt. And the sad part about it, if they said they kidnapped you from the west coast of Africa, what do Egypt got any damn thing to do with west coast Africa? That's two different countries. And not only that, that's different cultures.
Listen.
But these niggas want to be Egyptians.
Egypt is as far from Ghana as New York is from Hawaii.
Bad.
If not further. But we over here don't realize that in the motherland they got warring tribes. You got tribes of invaders and tribes that's been there since the beginning. The ones that have been there since the beginning, they never stopped fighting the motherfucker. That's why you had Ethiopians starving. The Arabs that had taken Sudanese and Somalians and Southern Egyptians and Algerians and for slaves for hundreds of years. This shit ain't none of this shit new. How do we find out or translate from the real alphabets, and how are the same names in Europe and America? How do we know if history is based on this soil or across the pond when the names being same? The whole purpose of, leave that up for a minute. The whole purpose of using the same names is to confuse people. You got to remember that part.
Yep.
That's Anunnaki war strategy. When you go to Genesis, when you look at Cain's children, they named after Seth's children, or vice versa, right? It's difficult to learn how to translate it because you have to come into a certain knowledge of self in order to be able to see all of their tactics. When you learn how to read, when you learn how to read your own thoughts, then the spirit come in. When the lie come up, nature tells you with an alert system, but most of us don't know our alert system. Some of us get a gut feeling. Some of us get goosebumps. Some of us get a headache. Some of us, our eyes jump, our ears ring. But we always, when we running down the wrong path, we get these intuitive reactions that the body is responding to nature telling you them niggas lying to you. Don't believe that shit. Don't trust that motherfucker. So we stop teaching our children to listen to the inner voice, because our school systems that we've been attending teaches them that the inner voice is the devil. So they can't never listen to the inner God because they've been told that the inner God is the devil. Devil mean enemy. The devil is the motherfucker telling you that shit. He said, okay, so when you read, this was a good one. Georgetown University has a book called History of the World by Georgetown University. Oxford also have a book called Oxford University History of the World, and they some huge books. And when you read them, they don't read the same. The world history that Europe give is not the world history we get in America. The European world history give us more details. It should tell us the fake names and the real names of a lot of the players, right? But we don't know that because we over here studying this from Americans' perspective. The American perspective is a colonizer's attempt to keep the colonized under control by teaching them a specific doctrine in education. So they teaching you in a Skinner box using the Pavlovian response system how to be a servant and usable on a workforce to keep their system afloat. Our people never mind working, but we're not going to work for the enemy, not knowingly. And so they can't never let us know that the enemy is who we working for, because when we realize it, we're going to do the same thing they wrote about in the history books. They say the Native American doesn't make a good slave. The natives we found when we try to force them to the field labor will sit in one place and refuse to move even until he starved to death. So they already know that we gonna follow something that the Chinese call the Wu Wei. The Wu Wei is one I got from RZA, by the way, from the Wu-Tang Clan. But the Wu Wei is to do nothing in order to accomplish something. That means sit on your ass in order to win. That's all it takes. Divorce yourself from the entire system, go home and sit down and watch this bitch burn.
That's exactly what
Take your motherfucking ball and go home. This your ball. The game over when you take your ball and go home because you're the only one with a ball on the field.
Yep, that's right. We're the quarterbacks, Mom. That's right. They need our energy. I've been saying that.
So when I refer people to the Indigenous Rights Act of the United Nations and the Indigenous Rights Act of the United States, the reason why I do that is because before these motherfuckers left, they had to tell you that all of the rights they've been stealing from you, they had to count them out, the ones they stole, and tell you we didn't even have the jurisdiction to take that from you. It was good fucking you while we had you. But now since you got into the gig that I'm really got little dick energy and I'm really short on the motherfucking delivery, I can go on and leave now, and this is your note saying goodbye. That's all it is. They fucked us good, told us how they fucked us, and left us a note on the dresser on their way out.
Then we just need to get their asses up out of here, though. That's the whole main part, because
that ain't even the hard part, though. Getting them out of here ain't even the hard part. Because most of the dirty players have been rounded up at the highest levels. The little minions that's left, Angel Bay and them gonna clean them dirty moors up so fast y'all ain't gonna even know it was ever a dirty moor in existence. I'm not worried about that. The Almighty Peace Stones is not gonna play with them.
The Caucasians are the Moors.
No.
No.
Them motherfuckers look like us, but they not us.
Okay, yeah, that's what we already said that head honcho who's running the bullshit look like us. But we talk about these old dusty motherfuckers that's running around here thinking they slick, they selling out. But they really ain't selling the land, it's what's on the land. Because they got the Chinese coming up in here, the Chinese just,
all that smoke and mirrors, sweetie.
Okay.
See, so they want you to think that the problem is bigger than Earth itself, so you won't even attempt to fix it. All of them pale people in positions of power is controlled by one of these dirty blackamoors. What they call more Zionist Jews. Them the motherfuckers been running the show ever since they been here.
Frida said, what about these Siberian chinos? These Siberian huskies.
You talking about, what's she talking about, the
$5.
look, okay, so the $5 Indians is in groups. You got some of them that turned on the people that made them $5 Indians. They got exposed to us and they love for us, they was like, fuck them people that brought us over here. We with you. Those are the ones that was entrusted to hold tribal secrets in sweat lodges over the peace pipe. But the ones that we don't want to fuck with, you'll know them in a minute because they not going to recognize us as nothing but some niggas. That's how you know the $5 Indians that I'm about to talk about next. So they had chiefs that was made chiefs by Andrew Jackson, I think it was. He can't make no motherfucking chiefs over here because he ain't no goddamn chief from over here. So, and he ain't got no mitochondrial right to knight no man chief on this land. This is the law of the land. When you go back to the lady talking to the Pope, she's talking about a higher law, the law of the land. She put that motherfucker on notice and said, we got the chiefs assembled. That got to be known to us. I've been screaming this shit for motherfucking 3 years now, but now it's starting to bubble over into the mainstream by the most strangest events and circumstances. So
is that why y'all we just seen that old fake ass Pope shit that went down last week?
That was some serious shit. It was that lady that was singing. That's a fucking soldier for the sisters. I can't say it no better than that. Fuck what she looked like. What is her heart saying? In our culture, when they sing, that's how you know what the heart has to say. This one over here is about to die out on y'all in a minute.
Okay.
I'm just letting y'all know.
Yeah,
but
we've been going for an hour and a half. So.
Yeah. So when she told the Pope the chiefs were assembled across the land, I just told y'all where they at. They in Raven Rock, Colorado, in the Cheyenne Mountains. Continuity of government following the FEMA document for the transfer of power from the de facto corporation that's been defunct under the 45th president, the final president, Donald J. Trump, while they've been running a stage show with this motherfucking Joe Biden puppet show, CGI, Jim Carrey, motherfucking James Woods, acting in the motherfucking green room while they projecting this motherfucker on your TV screen telling you he's somewhere, having whole goddamn press conferences at motherfucking Castle Rock Studios in Hollywood, and motherfuckers still don't realize that that's a studio, and they think he in the Oval Office in DC and that shit surrounded by a fence. Make this shit make sense.
People should ought to see that now. I mean, come on.
They still stuck on the dog and pony show. These people, look, until the shock and awe hit, the final revelation to the public of all this shit I've been talking about for the last 3 years, that most people are still going to be in a stupor. Even when they see it, they not going to believe what they seeing. Give y'all a spoiler alert. When they did that nuclear bomb warning in New York, that's telling us that the nuclear families have become critically aware to critical mass. It's a nuclear chain reaction taking place in the New York area. The second place they issued the same thing was California a couple days ago. That's telling you that they ain't got nothing to do with no war. We the motherfucking nuclear bomb that's about to go off. We the carbon footprint they be talking about in the news. When we the motherfuckers, when they be talking them codes, the people don't know the codes. I just been studying these motherfuckers so long, I can't miss the code.
They saying no sound, we can hear you good.
I don't.
Baby, I'm telling you, Empress, when
they fucking with it because between you and him, y'all keep switching places. So I know they fucking with it.
Yeah.
It's YouTube. It's not us because some people can hear. Can some of y'all hear and some of y'all can't hear?
You see how they doing on the other live?
Yeah, people saying YouTube is playing the game.
Yeah. So that's a good thing because whatever they missing over here, they can switch over to the Adept. What's this channel? The Adept. chambers?
This is at it's YouTube at Pink Illuminance. So everything is at Pink Illuminance. We named the show the Adept Chamber, presented by the Pink Illuminance YouTube page. So you could definitely hop on over here. Support us. We got you back. We definitely do. I wanted to ask too, before it got too late, all the people across the, across the planet, like Sri Lanka, they're running in their prime minister's house and making sure that they're knocking them people out of the way. We know that England is on fire, so they're dealing with nature over there. Japan's prime minister was assassinated very recently. So like,
he was the former prime minister. He wasn't reigning in office at the time. But a lot of the heads of state have been stepping down. Right. Look up the for those that want to do some research, it's called the Big Quit in the United States. It's going to be surprised at how many senators and congressmen is leaving, quietly just leaving their jobs, resigning, and they saying this shit is over with. Their jobs are gone.
They've been really stepping down since the shit with Donald Trump. All of them literally
with COVID and all of that.
See, it ain't got COVID was just a cover story. They was finna use that situation with that in order to poison a whole bunch of people. But because of military intelligence, that pattern was interrupted. But they went and let them run the narrative. But if you look, a lot of those vials was just saline that they was giving people for a vaccine. Right. And then they only gave certain people, according to their medical chart or who they was, actual nanobot injection. Right. So they know who they was targeting. They was targeting specific people. And they know who you are by your medical record that ties to your social security number. You can't escape it.
Yep.
They've been watching us the whole time. And they don't have to micromanage us. They just wait for one of us to become a blip on the radar, and then they just bop them down like Pop Goes the Weasel. They never seen me coming till it was too late. When I motherfucking canceled the contract, that made all of the nationality talk become void. It's no longer valid. It ain't that it wasn't at one time valid. It's just no longer valid. Anybody that don't understand that, they don't really understand what nationality is.
That's right. I canceled the contract too, Ron. I'm so pleased.
Yeah. So when I had to sit there and break that shit down, motherfuckers was looking at me like I was from outer space 3 years ago. Now the motherfuckers was like, damn, I'm glad you did that shit, because I didn't know to do it. So I just try to get as many of our people to understand what's taking place, so they ain't having heart attacks and shit. Talking about the gangbangers and took over the country. We ain't never been gangbangers. We was motherfucking tribes and clans that was infiltrated by traitors that turned us against each other.
Yep. That's a fact.
So I don't know, but we got any more hot questions that I need to deal with? Because I ain't ducking shit.
a lot of the people wanted to know from earlier how to find their when you were going over the last names and how to find what that means. There's a lot of people that were asking about their particular ones. I didn't want to, keep putting everybody's last name in there, but is there somewhere that they could find that information?
Do a name search. You're gonna be surprised at how much, like, what do the name mean? Where did it come from? When if they tell you it came from Irish or Scottish, they still telling you it's one of our clans.
That's right.
Right.
Niggas think because you saying Irish and Scotland and all those places, that are not us.
Look, you ever heard of something called a red nigga? Those are red niggas. The Scottish and Irish are red niggas. They call it Europe's redhead stepchild because they come from our lineage and stock, straight out of when we went and settled Egypt, because Egypt wasn't settled by Africans, contrary to popular opinion. It was settled by people from over here. And that's a reference to the Emerald Tablets of Thoth in which he said, I flew my ship, my craft, over to the land of the hairy barbarian and set up the complex that we call the Giza complex today.
Barbarian, would they be lineage?
No, that was a loose, that's a name for people that haven't been introduced to knowledge. They call them barbarians. In Europe, the barbaria of Europe is a whole different group from the ones that was settled in Egypt.
You do know those pyramids and stuff in Egypt is fake. We did a live one yesterday, and it's people over there telling you that those.
I've been telling people that shit was Hollywood.
Yeah,
that shit was
for like 5 years.
Look, that was our Hollywood. That's where we did stage presentations for the public and shit like that, and issue public ordinances and shit to tell people we redirecting the Nile from the middle of the Sahara. We got to fill up this big ass hole where this nigga didn't bust this Gandiva off and then shattered half the earth. You know, so stuff like that was done in Egypt. Egypt is a replica of the Great Temple of Tahuti in Mexico. That's all it is. And it's, instead of using the same star system they used in Mexico, they used a different star system based on the sky and over there. That's all.
All righty, y'all heard it from Ron Hayes. So quit letting niggas take you across the water where you ain't never been.
Well, they can take you across the water because we global.
Yeah, I know we global, but they don't want to say the oldest bones found that.
That's it for them. They just died out. Yeah. So what else we got? Right. Last question. Does Alice in Wonderland and Wizard of Oz, yep, was their chief called or referred to as the Mad Hatter? The Mad Hatter, you know him in the Vadun as Baron Samadi. That's my patron saint in the my lower. Right. So Alice is her nickname is Pearl, right? And the song Mama's Pearl from the Jacksons is about Alice. Mama's Pearl, let down your curls, right? And the whole Alice in Wonderland is the shamans who use the psilocybins to awaken the higher gnosis in the individual. So it's part of like peyote ceremonies and stuff. That's why Alice was sitting on the toadstool. The toadstool is the psilocybin that caused her to have the visions that took her into Wonderland, and the rabbit hole ran deep. The rabbit hole was the trail, the golden road that leads to Oz, right? So when Alice was seeing the elves and gnomes, Dorothy was seeing what they call them little bitty motherfuckers on there.
Pixies? Or no?
The little midgets that was singing with Alice, with Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz.
Dwarfs? Is they dwarfs?
They got a name for them in in Wizard of Oz. I can't think of it right now. But the little people, it's the same story from a different angle. Alice in Wonderland is about your tax identification number, your Tin Man. It's about your straw man. And it's about your courage being missing, your cowardly lion. And you got to go to the Wizard of Oz in order to get all of these things that's been taken from you. But when you get to the wizard, you find out that everything that you thought he stole, you already had it.
Somebody said the Munchkins or the Oompa Loompas.
The Munchkins. The Munchkins. The Oompa Loompas is Charlie.
Chocolate Factory.
Right.
Right. Charlie Wonka, Willy Wonka.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So them the ones. Those were the little people. We call them Twa. We call them Sign. We call them Ori. Ori mean original, first people. the little people that they made the movie got the gods gone crazy. That's the Twa people. The famous Twa pharaoh was Tahotep, right? That was his people, and they were of a high learning and high science society, but they are oral tradition people. And if you start trying to ask them their business, they play stupid because they're not finna give you shit.
There was a question earlier from a brother who was very vulnerable in his statement, so I didn't want to miss out on that. But he wanted to find out because of the statement that you made earlier about him, about the men being, you know, sacrificed by their families and not being able to come into their own, you know, heirship and royalty. How can they reverse that if something did happen to that, like that, to that effect to them when they were children? What do they do, you know, going forward, or how do
Can
they
can you
deal
go
with
over that?
that?
Can you go over that question again?
When you had mentioned the young boys and the children being sacrificed sexually, so to speak, and them not being, they're being too tainted, I think you said it like that, to come
Right,
into their
shattered
royalty, and
oracles. Yeah, so
the
the molested.
shattered oracle.
Right,
Yes,
that's the molested child in the ruptured root chakra. It is
right.
a treat. It's a treatment where you can repair the root chakra, and you normally won't get the treatment until you in your 40s or 50s, and it's called the gold treatment or presidential treatment. They infuse the prostate with actual gold, and it's the only way to repair that lower chakra in order for, because what happens is you have something called the eternal inner light. The eternal inner light comes through the crown chakra when you're in alignment, goes straight to the root chakra, and then it shines back up as the sacred secretion rises. And when it hit the brain, if you had a shattered oracle, it's going to either drive you mad or it's going to put you in a different kind of stupor where you're not going to be able to snap out of it. But they can repair
Well,
it if they know that it's that, they can give you the gold treatment in the prostate, that because you're going to have prostate issues because it's a root chakra issue, and the root chakra is directly tied to the prostate in men and to the uterus in women.
so for the women, would it be, you know, I'm pretty sure somebody might be able to benefit from it. Would it be a similar process, or
No, for the women, they have to go to the yoni priestess because they have to go through a womb cleansing ritual that realigns. See, because they are designed not to rupture the root chakra. So the yoni priestesses know the secret to heal what they call the broken womb. And the broken womb is from everything from a molested child who is bearing to one who have emotional issues from the childhood trauma of the molestation. And their jobs is going to be real heavy, and they're going to need a lot of new trainees to come in and help them because there's so many of these girls that's been damaged from not just molestation but flat out rape, that they have to
It's
go
funny.
through a. Go ahead, Tweety.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, it's funny that you mentioned like the mothers needing help and things of that nature, because I actually was doing birth work, but when I like went into that and I seen like how messed up shit was, I had to sort of like fall back, like
Yeah,
that
well, this
was like
right
open up
now.
a door to some shit, like. And then it was already where people will essentially, men and women, would come to me, you know, with all of they shit. The other day I was just talking to my friend and he just was like, yeah, I just been depressed and da da da, like just so casually, you know. But just, yeah, going into that birth work and seeing like how damaged women is, and even in the more science movement or whatever, it's a lot of women that has come to me, you know, with they different issues as far as molestation, rape, you know, just really I done seen and heard about just anything.
Yeah, so I find myself as a young guy not knowing shit, counseling girls who was victim of rape, and I didn't know what I was doing. All I was really trying to do was like just the only thing I knew to do is give them a shoulder to cry on. But in the process of listening to those stories, I began to study psychology later on. I started seeing angles to give solutions. But it's going to take us, the sisterhood of healed sisters is so powerful that those ones that's at the verge of suicide need to be taken out of the community at large and only be with her sisters.
Mm-hmm.
But they think that chasing a man is going to be the solution, but it's going to exacerbate the problem.
Yep.
She got to get with the sisters to recover her balance of self, her sense of self, her sense of wholeness, and her sense of wellness. And it's the energy of the mitochondria that she's trying to get to. That's the most powerful healing energy that we know of. And only by being in a group of women will the mitochondria start healing those psychological and emotional wounds. And this is why when the women say, I don't mess with women, I be skeptical of them because they don't know the value of women in that energy state, that feng shui environment with the sisters that's at peace with themselves affects the damaged sister. And then she begins to heal internally at a deeper level. So the sisters who run from that connection is scared to wake up to their true power because they're gonna hurt somebody.
Yes. Yeah, it's I actually, well, I don't want to, well, I've experienced a lot. So when it comes to like sisterhood and things of that nature, like I'm really, really big on that because it's kind of weird that we don't have that, and I don't like that we don't have that because it's
Okay, so let me tell you where to find it. It's a sister in New York, got a group called the Goddess Glow Up. All of the sisters that want to help the other sisters heal can go to her group. She know what she doing. She can help y'all heal and help y'all to help other sisters heal.
yeah,
The
I've
name?
seen, I don't know
I've seen the
if you're
goddess
thinking
glow
about
up.
the same. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm thinking of the same thing, but I've seen essentially things sort of organized to that degree where it's like women you know, going out to the water and
Yeah.
bathing and things of that nature, or just, you know, dressing in they all white and just dancing, you know, just the ritual,
Yeah.
so to speak.
So yeah, because what they doing, if you study the Sufi, all of the women's mitochondrial activating rituals is concealed in the order of the Sufi in the Islamic culture from the house of the Black Madonna and the daughters of Isis. If you do the rituals with sisters that they doing in the Sufi orders, you begin raising mitochondrial, and it's cataclysmic to those rogue elements on the planet. Because when you move it to the earth, back to the love energy that I think it's 444 is the angel frequency. That's to wake up the higher psyche, but it's another one like 450 something.
430 is it? It's, I
It's
know it's like
higher than
432 or
440.
456.
I think it might be the 456 because it's higher than the 444. But it's the maximum frequency, love frequency. It can be looked up. It's real easy. Just look up love frequency. And this energy is the energy that turns the mitochondria to maximum. So the sisters walking around with these 2 and 3 foot auras, that's really more powerful than they know. Auras will expand to as far as 60 to 150 feet. And when 2 or 3 of them is in close proximity, anybody that walk through the field becomes affected mitochondrial with the love energy. So it's like Tesla coils in different places around the world. This is the energy that's being harnessed right now to awaken the matriarchs and to restore the matriarchal balance to earth, which is the correct balance, the Shu Men resonance. I mean, the Shu Tefnut resonance to get us off the Shu Men. Love frequency is 528. Thank you for that. Yeah. So when I did the A-tone video, the A-tone video at 444 awakens higher consciousness, at 532 wakes the higher love energy, and that's the frequency that activates the mitochondrial full activity. So when the women get in the circles and they do these rituals, you can't have men in there because it'll short the energy. And everything that look like a woman ain't a woman. But y'all gonna smell the bitch before you see her. Just remember what I'm telling you. You're gonna smell her before you see her. And y'all can smell her not with the, and I ain't talking about with the physical nose either, because y'all gonna know. And the first thing y'all gonna do, you're gonna look at your sister and say, ooh, they're gonna one of them stank bitches. I already know how y'all gonna, and then the ones who don't know no better, gonna be like, why are you talking about the goddess? That bitch ain't no goddess. I don't know what the fuck she is, but she don't belong here.
Yeah.
Dragon.
And you gonna
man,
know, because
funny, like,
look, she gonna try to act like one of y'all, right? But when y'all start getting into the love energy, she gonna get uncomfortable. She gonna start rubbing her legs like a cricket. She gonna start sweating around her forehead, and then she gonna have to leave. She can't
And
stay
you know
with y'all.
what, too? The funny thing about, because we've been able to tap into our telepathy and our, you know, astral travel a lot more recently, and I'm speaking on a collective because I've seen people come here and I've gone there. However, because of the fact that we're not able to have that interpersonal relationship anymore, and seeing people like Mother Tweety, she's well beyond what, maybe 300, 400 miles from me. I'm near the Atlanta Corporation at the moment. She's up near, you know, the Ohio State Republic. So the fact that I've never even seen her in special appearance, and we've been able to really tap in, you know, we know that our astrology is very much tied in, and we know that our natal charts have a connection, that we are basically kindred spirits. Like, she's my soulmate, and I've never had to even meet her in special appearance to know that. And we've been able to travel to one another well before we gotten to this point. This was months ago, you know, months ago, before we even got as close as we are. But it's an amazing experience, like you say, if you're on that love frequency, for what you can open up. You have no idea. Like, the way they shut this shit down, this was the prime opportunity for you to really dig deep and figure out who you are and what you can do. Because going to the clubs and dressing up and all that fakery in the interpersonal kind of intercourse that we used to be being given off, that's done. Like, a lot of these women, this is how you know who is who, because a lot of these women with the whole closet full of this and the hair full of that and the makeup, the whole drawers full of MAC makeup and all that stuff, all that fine, they couldn't figure out what to do with themselves once this shit shut down. They couldn't go no fucking where. And not to mention covering their faces, and you got a face full of makeup on. So it's like, this was the divide, you know, the great divide between the people of the land, the organic people who are supposed to be here, and the people who are not. And technically, I almost feel like, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, that Mother Nature, Mother Gaia, is doing her Sodom and Gomorrah, you know, type of deal, where she's getting rid of the people.
I've been telling them for 3 years to watch the weather, because the weather patterns right now, the earthquakes that's gonna come, is from something called the sway of the matriarchs. The ritual that they do is a rump shaking ritual. When the girls in the hood was twerking, they was practicing to know how to do the sway of the matriarch, how to move the hips. They just didn't activate the energy because they was clubbing.
Right.
All of the stuff that you see in the club is ritualistic in source. But the problem is nobody knows anymore how to activate that energy. Once you remember how to activate that energy, when you shake your ass with a purpose, you're going to shake some shit up.
Woo. Gave me
It's
chills when you
so
said
funny.
that,
Right?
because that's for sure. That's for sure. Go ahead, Tweety.
Look at the
Oh
tribal
no.
dances of the any other clans that got tribal dances still going on. When the women do get up, especially in the cultures that's mirror cultures from the motherland, Africa, those mirror tribes, like the Zulu is the mirror tribe of the Hopi. When you see the women doing the shaking around the fire dances, that's where all this shit come from. With twerking, the tootsie rolling, and all that shit. It was old conjures from what we call rain dance ceremonies that was broke up into pieces and it bubbles up in genetic memory under the power of the drum.
Mhm.
And so we started doing all this shit. Like, for instance, what we know in Chicago is stepping, right?
Yeah.
That's some cold shit, but that shit is a whole conjure.
Right.
That shit is a whole conjure, but don't nobody know how to activate it. It's a simulated, it's called a dragon dance. It's a simulated dragon dance. The lead follow step for step, forth and back, side to side. So you syncing the energies of two people. You're just not using it for shit. And when you got a man dancing with a woman, you are harnessing divine masculine, divine feminine, because dancing is a right brain, abstract, artistic expression by using the body as an instrument to stir up the energy in the air around the body, using the auric field to affect the field of the earth to send the message throughout the frequency for the ones that's doing the same dance in California, but with a different name,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that's why when you start doing those dances, you always hit what they call a zone. When you hit the zone, you be on step. When anybody come in there, you right on step with them. You can be 2 people, 4 people, it don't even matter. You can swing dance and kick. It's the same as square dancing.
Right.
The
Right.
square
Right.
dance came from the same thing. It was a mother line dance. That's why it's called a square dance.
Mhm.
The square represents the 4 X's on the genes.
Wow.
The 2 ball cane represents the 3 X's. Flip it off a Y. The Y is the 3 angles of the 3 X's on the chromosome. That's the divine masculine order. The 2 ball cane also represents the genitals of the male, right? So you gotta have somebody bump the sun to the left and somebody else bumping from the right to see if he gonna bump straight or get stuck to the left or get stuck to the right. If he a straight bump, he gonna bump straight no matter which way they bumping. So you ain't gonna be able to be over religious and think he gonna be God intoxicated with you, because he realizes that the God was in is greater than any God you can manufacture through a book. It tell you in the book the same thing I'm telling you. Know that that which is in you is greater than that which is in the world. What the fuck is they talking about? Right? And when we
Right.
get done with it, if it don't involve the mitochondria, and only women control it on earth. Men don't control it, we recipients of it. And as the women continuously turns a man's mitochondria up, he begins to become more higher in rank in the status of the human family.
Well, that was a whole mouthful. I know I'm just about having to process so much. I'm so glad we were able to get, even both of the interviews done. This was a beautiful session. I am so thankful to everyone who's come and supported us at with no background of us who we are. Like I said, we came into the live and I didn't get to really tell people much about myself and or Tweety. However, we'll be doing this every first Wednesday. Rod is definitely we're gonna have to pull him back in because there's so much more to talk about. However, the mothers getting together, the mothers being able to, like me and Tweety did, just vibe on the same blood frequency. The brothers are gonna automatically come into the cipher in their natural divine masculine, like Rod said earlier. So I'm just thankful. I don't see any other real pressing questions, but Tweety, did you have anything else? So I didn't want to hold anybody too long. This was beautiful.
So
all right,
the
make sure
last,
y'all support.
the last thing I wanted to say is this: is that when we talk about the mothers, the reason why we put emphasis on that, there's this thing called unconditional love. Unconditional love literally means I don't need a reason to love you. I just do. Right? Only mothers know unconditional love for the child. And it's the first time the child in his life experienced unconditional love. If the mother is compromised and the unconditional love is compromised, it compromises the spiritual, psychological, and emotional well-being of the child, be it male or female. So to raise the matriarchy, we find those mothers who still holds that unconditional love, but her children might be grown now. She's still in that energy. That's matriarchal energy. In that unconditional love, she reaches out and takes in orphans. And she helps the sisters who's struggling because they don't understand yet how to be a mother, to be a functional mother, and don't turn her back because she's not doing it the way she said. I want you to do it this way. It's not like that. It's whatever is best for this child. Let's figure it out together. We as a team, I came to give you aid and assistance, right? So I'm gonna give you the aid and assistance that I would have wanted if I was in the situation you was in. Ain't no big eyes and no little U's under the matriarchal system. We just got different functions from different training from Mother Nature. If we follow the training Mother Nature give us, we're gonna automatically follow the path of righteousness. And those who goes the exact opposite is not us. So when the mothers get together for the sake of the children, unconditional love is in the air, and that's the love energy that breaks oppressive chains. So long live the matriarchs.
Long live the matriarchs. We love y'all for coming through. We love our Chief Rod. We love Tweety. We love. And don't gotta know you because we all one. So I think people need to figure that part out. Even the people that's down in the bowels calling themselves, doing dirty more work. Y'all just keep doing that and cleanse them bowels for us because we love you too.
Right. And just remember, if the dirty Moors, because all of the Moors know who the dirty Moors is because the body complained to the grand assembly of grand sheiks about the dirty Moors. So they got all of their records. They know what they did. They know who they done it to. They know how many times they done it. And they got to answer to Chief Malik Angel Bay and the Peace Stones. That they don't have to answer to me.
Well,
that's who they got to answer to. So we putting the righteous back in charge of the dirty people. And them dirty motherfuckers, the ones who was corrupted, that was righteous to begin with, they gonna have to bump straight. But the ones who ain't us, they on their motherfucking own and don't ask me for no motherfucking help because I'm not here to help you motherfuckers. I'm here to help my people that want to come up out of this motherfucking fucked up condition.
Correct.
Yeah.
We already up
not
out
keeping
of
us in it.
Right.
Yeah, or trying to.
And for the Canaan Moors, y'all can look up the Moorish 6-point star and find out that it predates the Moorish 5-point star. So don't give these sisters no shit without doing your background checks first.
Please believe and know that I ain't on nobody's temple docket, so you have zero jurisdiction over me. I wasn't gonna bring that up, but yeah. For for those folks who think that they can put the thumb down over here. You ain't got none of that over here. And I'ma still wear my fez because I earned that thing.
Put that
Didn't need no
motherfucker.
damn
Yeah,
temple.
wrap that motherfucker in your feathers.
Yeah,
Right.
But yeah, I always been honorable. Let's just put that on the record, though. For the record, we just gonna put that on the record. How honorable I've
Here's
been
the sad part.
for.
Look, here's the sad part. It's a very small percentage of dirty Moors as sisters. Very small percentage. The overwhelming majority of the ones that's pushing the dogma in the dirt is the men. Most of the ones is in Grand Sheik, Assistant Grand Sheik, and Chief Mufti status in the local temples. They running around with their chest out like they really got this shit on lock, but they about to answer to a motherfucking Chicago bull that they can't fucking move. He ain't scared of nail one of them niggas. And he got some soldiers that feel just like he do, that's the same fed up as he is. And he didn't spend 50 years in the cage, 40-something years in the cage, and he ready to get out and beat his motherfucking chest and clean this shit the fuck up. So they don't have to answer to me, but they would rather probably, nope, they wouldn't rather answer to me because I'm gonna skin them niggas alive. They don't want to ask, they better off answer to Malik because he's just gonna do what's supposed to be done according to the laws and bylaws of the Moorish order. That's it. He gonna follow the book. Me, I'm not following the book. I'm gonna throw the book and piss on that motherfucker, set it on fire, and whip out my sword and go to taking heads. But that's not my position, my job, nor my function, nor my jurisdiction. I'm growth and development. I'm here to brain bang these motherfuckers' heads so these motherfuckers turn this shit loose. That's what my OGs told me to do. Just keep brain banging them with the facts.
Right.
Now, I gave enough information for you to reference. Everything I said in here, I gave names, people, everything you need to check out to validate Mr. No having receipts ass Rod. Because all of the receipts I posted, they didn't never look at them and they just assumed that I'm just talking. But we passed the part of me putting up the receipts because all of the elders got the receipts. Since all of the elders got the receipts, now I could just come out and talk openly to the grassroots just to tell them what's going on behind the scenes. And a motherfucker don't never have to agree with me. And I got the right to not give a fuck. And they can say that I'm wrong, but I'm going to continue to be right and I'm going to continue to tell the truth. And I'm going to continue to upset the motherfucking peace until we establish some goddamn justice.
Yeah.
And they can take that to the bank because Noble Drew Ali already said he can count the Moors that's going to make it on one hand and have some fingers left. Now tell me that shit ain't in oral statements and prophecy. He more worried about Moors than he is about anybody else. Because all he doing through the whole oral statements and prophecies is warning us about Moors.
I came to you Moors because y'all needed me the most.
Yep, because he needed.
There you had it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
This was love, y'all. Catch us again. Please do subscribe, share with everybody, show some love. We'll follow you back on Instagram, all that good stuff. And we'll keep you on next first Wednesday. This was the Adept Chamber. The Adepts Chamber.
Peace, goddesses.
Peace and love, y'all.